The shooter genre is not my forte. Still, Poison Control from NIS America grabbed my attention from early trailers regardless of its third-person shooter mechanics. No, it wasn't only because there was an attractive anime girl in the box art. Besides that though, the art style and general premise is unlike anything I've experienced before. After playing, Poison Control is definitely one of the most unexpected sleeper hits of this year.
どこかで聞いたことあるような不思議な名前ね。
Poison Control takes place in Hell, where the protagonist wakes up and seeks to return to the mortal realm. After awaking, we encounter a being named Poisonette, a former Klesha, which is an existence born out of humanity's delusions, regardless if the originator of those delusions is dead or alive. While Poisonette hijacks the protagonist's body with her soul and ultimately seeks to take it over for good, the two work in tandem to purify Bell's hells and collect tickets meant for reaching heaven. Those who manage to reach heaven are allowed a wish to be granted, a convenient end goal for the main characters to fulfill their desires. The premise of Poison Control is compelling and kept me invested from beginning to end. There are some entertaining characterizations and banter, especially from Poisonette, who is animated in a simultaneously cutesy and enduring manner. Speaking of animations, the character portraits are top-notch. There are a myriad of attractive female characters met throughout the adventure, though Poisonette's portraits are clearly given the most attention. The narrative is worthwhile, though its pacing can be a bit of turn-off for a chunk of the mid-game. Purifying the Bell's hells is what most of the gameplay consists of, as players are tasked with saving the souls of those who have submitted to their own delusions. Each stage has its own unique character and its own plight that you learn about, and they ultimately result in Poisonette reflecting on who she is and what she wants to do. The main story only has a handful of characters who are each amusing and delightful. They greatly aid in contributing towards the tone of the title, which is often lighthearted, witty, and humorous despite the context. This is not to say the game never takes itself seriously though, as some legitimately dark moments push the characters forward, especially near the conclusion. Poison Control is a third-person shooter. However, it is more than approachable for any individual who has little to no experience with the genre, such as myself. Aiming is rarely ever cumbersome, and the gameplay loop becomes readily apparent and easily digestible. Players will combat Kleshas by shooting them with a gun they have equipped, known as Toxins and Deliriants. Each has its own stats and varying degrees of practical usage. There are also antidotes and catalysts that players can equip. The former offers defense against particular harmful effects players will have to contend with, and the latter are buffs that each increases a specific attribute of the player's stats. Additionally, toxins, antidotes, and catalysts can be upgraded with the currency found across the stages. There's an impressive degree of customization thanks to all the choices and upgradable elements, though one can also just stick to their favorite gun if they desire. It is never essential for the player to alter the loadout, since the entirety of the game can be tackled by whatever you have equipped. While this can certainly be seen as a negative, I find the design choice offers a far less stress-inducing gameplay environment. Aside from the shooting, players can switch to Poisonette. In this mode, players can clear the field of several poison mires that cause damage if walked on by the protagonist. As bizarre as this might sound, the act of clearing out the poison is absurdly addicting, and I found myself enjoying it more than the shooting. Clearing the poison mires around enemies in specific ways also causes damage, which is a neat secondhand benefit aside from just making the terrain more feasible to cross. There are choices players can make when interacting with Poisonette to enhance a specific stat. Enhancing these stats give eventual passive gameplay benefits, which is a neat little gameplay element. However, I felt as if there are too few choices throughout the game's duration. More instances of choice making would have not only granted further gameplay benefits, but it would have also provided more intimate moments between the player and Poisonette. When it comes down to it, Poison Control has a supremely addicting game loop, but there are several critiques I have that could potentially be addressed in a sequel. For instance, there is a sincere lack of enemy variety. There are only a handful of types of Klesha, and as gratifying as it is to get rid of them on screen, they gradually become less and less threatening due to their frequent repetitiveness. Area design is certainly passable thanks to a number of treasures and occasional diverging paths players can find, but a large chunk of them felt similar to each other. There was just a similar coloration of most of them, and a fair amount of the areas themselves felt like boxes. There is also a world map where players can move around to select which stage they want to play, but the proximity of each stage's location and the general diminutive size of the world map made me question its incorporation at all. Additionally, in regards to bugs, the title was near flawless, but there was an odd glitch that I experienced. When facing off against one of the last bosses, I ended up having to restart from a save file after several of the boss's limbs didn't load. Poison Control soundtrack is just as addicting to listen to as the gameplay sequences are, but similar to the enemy and area design, I personally felt that there was simply not enough tracks. They were fitting for the areas they were present in, but they did grow a bit wary after constant use, so more tracks in general could have only made it more fun. Poison Control is an unexpected enjoyable gaming experience. The result is a game that only lacks in areas where I wanted more, including enemy variety and stage layout. However, that doesn't hinder just how addicting this adventure is, which I hope acts as a foundation for a sequel. I may not be the biggest fan of shooters, but Poison Control takes the genre and presents it in a way that could expand the fan base. If you can't get behind that, well, the cleaning aspect is just as satisfying. Noisy Pixels giving Poison Control an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.